Usually, your morning news feed is just this chaotic blur of flashing red alerts and like constant political yelling.
Oh, yeah. It's exhausting.
It really is. But today, we're zooming out. We want to look at a massive, almost comical contradiction that is just staring us in the face right now in mid-2026.
Right, because we're pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into building out this ethereal, magical thing called the cloud.
Exactly. But the biggest threat to all that futuristic digital ambition is actually just literal weather patterns.
It's the ultimate reality check, honestly. I mean, we want to live in the future, but we are totally bound by the physical constraints of the present.
Yeah, and that is exactly the kind of perspective you are going to get today. We are taking a huge stack of information, specifically the Daily Tech Reader's 6 a.m. news brief for Saturday, July 11, 2026.
A really dense read, by the way.
Ugh, super dense. And our mission for this deep dive is to extract the definitive macro trends of mid-2026. We're bypassing the daily panic to figure out the long-term reality of the world that you're actually navigating right now. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Well, if you look at the synthesis of all these global reports, the overarching theme is undeniable. We are witnessing a historic pivot in how the global economy operates.
Right.
For the last few years, the world was obsessed with short-term speculative hype. It was all about what new technology might do in theory.
Like the what-if phase.
Exactly. But mid-2026 is defined by a hard pivot toward long-term economic, physical, and digital infrastructure investment. The market isn't holding its breath in a panic anymore.
Yeah.
It's operating with what I would call cautious confidence. The speculation phase is over. We're rolling up our sleeves and building.
And to really understand that building phase, we have to start with the biggest driver of the 2026 economy, which is AI.
Yeah.
It has officially transitioned.
Oh, absolutely.
It's no longer just a shiny software novelty that writes funny poems for you. It has become physical, foundational business infrastructure. The brief shows data center expansion and semiconductor manufacturing attracting just absolutely massive domestic and global investment.
It's a profound shift in categorization, really. Like, a few years ago, AI was viewed purely as a software application.
Right.
Today, economically speaking, it is being treated like concrete or steel. It's a raw material for the modern economy. We're seeing enterprise AI deployments expanding rapidly because the technology is, well, finally maturing.
Yeah, the AI agents have moved out of the sandbox and into actual production environments.
Exactly. And AI coding assistants are fundamentally reshaping software engineering. They're essentially writing the boilerplate code so human engineers can focus on the big picture architecture.
It's like the 1800s railroad boom.
Yeah.
We're done arguing about whether trains are cool. Now we're just laying thousands of miles of steel track. But wait, if everyone is building data centers, isn't there a ceiling on how much we can physically build?
What's fascinating here is that the ceiling on all this growth isn't necessarily about the silicon or the financial capital. As you lay this new digital track, the defining metric is operational maturity.
But wait, I have to challenge that analogy for a second.
Sure.
You say AI is being treated like concrete or steel, but you can't sue concrete.
That is a very fair point.
Right, because I'm looking at a headline in the briefing right now that says the state of Florida is actively suing OpenAI over safety failures. It feels like we are trying to treat it like a dumb raw material, but it's acting with a mind of its own and generating real-world legal liabilities.
Yeah.
So how is the enterprise market squaring that risk if they're treating it like physical infrastructure?
That is a brilliant point, and it perfectly highlights the growing pains of this era. You're right, concrete doesn't hallucinate, and it doesn't leak corporate data.
Right, exactly.
What the enterprise market is doing to square that risk is radically changing how they measure success. The novelty premium has totally evaporated. Organizations are no longer buying AI just to say they have it.
So they're getting practical.
Very. They are measuring it strictly through cold, hard business productivity, operational efficiency, and, above all, reliability. If an AI tool creates legal exposure or hallucination risks, enterprise buyers are walking away. They're demanding profitable, secure AI businesses.
So the market is actively filtering out the hype and rewarding practical, boring reliability.
Exactly.
Let's talk about how that reliability actually works under the hood.
Yeah.
Because the briefing mentions several technical shifts happening right now to make this all function. It highlights edge computing, multimodal AI, and open source AI ecosystems.
Yep.
Let's break those down, maybe starting with edge computing. Why is that suddenly so important?
Well, think about the latency and the massive tower required to send every single piece of data back to a giant data center.
Oh, right. Takes time.
Edge computing changes that. Instead of a factory robot or a smartphone sending data to a centralized server 1,000 miles away to be processed, the AI processing happens right there on the device on the edge of the network.
Wow.
It makes the system faster, more secure, and way less reliant on constant connectivity.
Which makes perfect sense if you want reliability. And multimodal AI.
That just means the AI isn't limited to reading text anymore. It can simultaneously process video, audio, and sensor data, much like a human brain takes in multiple senses at once.
That's incredible.
And all of this is being accelerated by open source AI ecosystems, where developers worldwide are collaborating on foundational models rather than relying entirely on a few massive closed-off tech companies.
And financially, this shift to maturity is creating a very constructive long-term market sentiment. But what I find fascinating is that despite all this futuristic tech, the old rules of finance totally still apply.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the briefing points out that traditional treasury yields are still serving as the core economic indicators. Because if you are borrowing billions to build physical data centers, the cost of capital interest rates matters immensely.
Yeah, borrowing money isn't free, even for AI.
Right. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is out there trading through the weekend, doing its thing, and gold remains a closely watched safe haven asset. It's this wild mix of the digital frontier and old-school finance.
But you're absolutely right to focus on the physical constraints because the real bottleneck to all of this ambition isn't the chips or the software.
No, it's the power.
Yes.
You cannot have an AI boom without an energy boom. We use this ethereal word, the cloud. But the cloud is shockingly physical. It is made of thousands of massive buildings filled with humming servers that need to be kept cool and powered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And this is where the macroeconomic picture gets incredibly complex. AI data centers are actively reshaping utility planning across the globe.
Wow.
They're driving long-term electricity demand forecasts to levels we really haven't seen in decades. The digital economy is fundamentally altering the physical energy grid.
So think of the current electrical grid like a highway system designed for everyday commuter cars. It works fine for regular households and traditional businesses, but suddenly the digital economy has dropped thousands of massive, heavy 18-wheeler semi-trucks, these new AI data centers, onto those exact same commuter roads. Yeah. So how are utilities actually coping with this traffic jam?
They're attacking it with massive physical infrastructure projects. We're seeing renewed, highly serious investment in nuclear energy.
Really? Nuclear?
Yeah, and the reason for nuclear is specific. Data centers don't sleep. They require what we call baseload power, a massive, unbroken, continuous foundation of electricity.
Ah, got it.
Wind and solar are crucial, obviously, but they have intermittency issues. The wind stops blowing, the sun goes down. Nuclear provides that clean, 247 baseload power the digital economy demands.
And to supplement the renewables, the briefing notes massive battery storage deployments happening right now to capture that solar and wind energy and release it when needed. There are active grid modernization projects nationwide.
Because energy security and grid resilience are no longer just environmental talking points. They're top strategic economic priorities. If the grid goes down, the AI goes down, and suddenly your foundational business infrastructure is completely useless.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We have these incredibly advanced, cloud-based digital ambitions. We're relying on AI to solve our biggest global problems, but those ambitions are entirely tethered to old-school power grids and, quite frankly, what the sky is doing today.
Yeah.
The briefing highlights exactly what is happening with the weather right now, and it is actively stressing the system.
Exactly. The digital world is entirely at the mercy of the physical world. Right now, extreme heat is firmly established across the U.S. desert Southwest.
Yeah, and Europe is dealing with severe heat waves that are actively affecting their agriculture and their physical infrastructure.
While the West Coast is enjoying pretty pleasant, mild weather.
But then the central U.S. is facing severe afternoon thunderstorms.
Right. And the Northeast is having seasonable weather supporting summer travel. But those extreme heat events in Europe and the Southwest, those directly stress the very same power grids that these new data centers are relying on to stay cool.
It's a wildly fragile balance.
It really is. And that is why long-term energy planning now inherently reflects the needs of the digital economy. You simply cannot decouple them.
And because energy and infrastructure are now absolute digital prerequisites, they have also become the center of national security and global geopolitics.
Yes.
The global board has shifted.
Precisely. AI leadership is heavily influencing international economic strategy. Governments are looking at those data centers and semiconductor fabs as critical national assets.
They have to.
Right. They are forced to balance rapid economic growth with very real national security priorities, which makes supply chain resilience a massive strategic objective.
Because you have to ensure you can actually get the rare earth metals, the cooling equipment, and the chips to build these technologies, regardless of what is happening geopolitically. And as you digitize everything, you obviously have to protect it. The data shows cybersecurity spending is growing exponentially. It's a massive priority across healthcare and enterprise tech precisely because AI adoption is accelerating so fast.
Oh, yeah.
But to understand the friction of 2026, we have to look at the traditional geopolitical map, which remains incredibly volatile. Impartially speaking, looking at the updates, Ukraine and Russia are continuing their military operations.
Right.
NATO is actively monitoring European security developments. And developments in the Middle East continue to impact those global energy markets we were just talking about.
It's a deeply multifaceted global environment. If you look at some of the recent top stories from the source material, you see exactly how complex this backdrop is. There was a tentative peace agreement reached between the U.S. and Iran regarding the Strait of Hormuz, which is a vital choke point for global energy shipping.
Right, which ties back into the power constraints.
Exactly. We already discussed Florida suing OpenAI over governance, and then you have federal authorities uncovering a 2,000-foot drug tunnel connecting Mexico to the U.S.
Okay, I have to pause on that exact juxtaposition because this is the wild contrast of 2026 that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
On the one hand, the scientific milestones happening parallel to all this geopolitical friction are staggering.
Yeah.
NASA is actively preparing for the Artemis missions to return to the moon.
Which is huge.
We are planning actual Mars explorations. There is real momentum in fusion energy research, literally trying to bottle the power of a star. We are making steady progress in quantum computing and putting up incredibly advanced climate monitoring satellites.
That's amazing.
We are literally planning Mars explorations and developing fusion energy, yet we're still dealing with physical drug tunnels and active ground wars over borders. How do international markets even process this? We are acting like a Type 1 civilization technologically, but we are still so rooted in basic human tribalism.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it tells us something profound about human systems. The international markets process it through relentless adaptation.
Adaptation, huh?
Yeah. Despite the friction, despite the ground wars and the dirt tunnels, global commerce and international trade are demonstrating incredible resilience. Humanitarian organizations remain actively engaged across conflict regions.
Right.
Cross-border tech investment continues to expand. The global economy doesn't stop for the contradictions. It prices them in, adapts around the obstacles, and keeps building.
It's that cautious confidence you mentioned at the very start.
Yeah.
We acknowledge the chaos, but the financial and technological momentum keeps moving forward anyway.
Exactly.
So let's zoom in from that massive geopolitical level. Let's talk about the human scale, how these massive technological and infrastructural shifts are actually impacting you, your daily life, your career, and your health.
The impact on the human element is arguably the most nuanced part of this entire briefing. Let's look at work. AI is absolutely reshaping knowledge work.
Yes.
But the data shows clearly that technology is largely complementing, not replacing, human effort. We're seeing a massive expansion in skills-based hiring. Employers aren't just looking at degrees anymore. They're looking for people who know how to wield these new AI tools effectively.
Right. The old saying is proving true. AI isn't necessarily going to take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI might.
Precisely.
And interestingly, the briefing notes that hybrid work patterns remain incredibly stable. The organizations that are proving to be the most successful in this transition aren't the ones just buying software. They are the ones investing in their people alongside the technology.
Because they understand that true operational excellence requires human judgment paired with digital efficiency.
Yeah.
Like an AI coding assistant can write 1,000 lines of code in seconds, but it takes a human engineer to understand why that code needs to be written to solve a specific user problem.
And we are seeing that exact same human-centric focus play out in healthcare.
Yeah.
AI-assisted diagnostics and drug discovery are advancing broadly across the board.
Oh, the healthcare advancements are huge.
Yeah, and remote patient monitoring is expanding, which is fantastic for accessibility.
Yeah.
You don't have to drive to a clinic just to get your vitals checked. We're also seeing really healthy investments in genomics.
And just to clarify for everyone, genomics is the study of a person's entire genetic mapping.
Right.
Using AI to analyze that massive amount of DNA data is pushing us rapidly toward precision medicine, where treatments are tailored exactly to your specific genetic makeup rather than a one-size-fits-all approach.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
But technology can't solve everything because the reports still show persistent, severe healthcare workforce shortages.
Yeah, that's a real issue.
You can have the best AI diagnostic tool in the world analyzing a genomic sequence, but you still need a human nurse to administer the care, turn the patient over in bed, and hold their hand. AI has zero bedside manner.
It highlights the physical constraints of our world again. The focus across both work and healthcare is on human-centric outcomes aided by digital tools, not fully replaced by them. We still desperately need the human touch.
And nowhere is that human element more obvious than in culture. It is a busy summer weekend in mid-2026.
Very busy.
The World Cup is happening, attracting massive, passionate, worldwide audiences. People are going out to summer movies, they're listening to podcasts, streaming shows, and independent creators are expanding their reach.
Yeah.
Yes, AI is increasingly being incorporated into music and creative production behind the scenes, and traditional media is adapting to that. But more importantly, people are still flocking in huge numbers to live entertainment venues, museums, and outdoor festivals.
Which tells us a lot about human desire in an automated age. The more digitized our back-end infrastructure becomes, the more we crave analog, shared human experiences.
It really does. To me, it proves that we want AI to do the boring stuff so we can enjoy the human stuff.
Exactly.
We want the AI to optimize the data center power grid, synthesize the data, and write the boilerplate code so we have the freedom to go travel for the weekend, watch a football match, and hang out with our friends. Though I should mention, the data also shows a major sticking point. Housing affordability remains a massive economic discussion point for regular people. The AI revolution hasn't magically made rent any cheaper.
No, it hasn't. And that right there is the core friction of the modern era. The technology advances exponentially, but our societal infrastructure, things like zoning laws, housing development, and workforce training, adapts linearly at a much slower human pace.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why continuous learning is repeatedly highlighted in these briefings as the new competitive advantage. The ability to learn, adapt, and integrate these tools into your daily life is what separates those who thrive in 2026 from those who feel left behind by the pace of change.
So we've covered a massive amount of ground today. Mid-2026 is clearly defined by a maturing, serious tech landscape. AI is no longer a shiny toy. It's a foundational utility requiring immense physical infrastructure, massive amounts of nuclear and renewable energy, and complex global security management.
Well summarized.
Yet, despite all the geopolitical chaos and the extreme weather, it is seamlessly blending into our daily work, healthcare, and culture. So what does this all mean?
For you, navigating this landscape, it means your best strategy in a hyper-automated world is adaptability.
Great.
Your goal shouldn't be to compete with AI on its terms. You will never beat a data center at speed or data processing. Your goal is continuous learning, using AI as a collaborative tool to enhance your uniquely human skills, like your judgment, your empathy, your physical presence, and your creative problem solving.
I like that.
The infrastructure of the future is actively being built around you. Your job is to learn how to direct it effectively.
Which is both empowering and, let's be honest, a little daunting. But before we wrap up, I know you always have one last thing for us to chew on.
I do. We've talked extensively today about how AI is rapidly becoming as foundational to our physical infrastructure as electricity and water.
Right.
We're laying these digital tracks everywhere, deeply integrating it into healthcare, power grids, and enterprise logic. This raises an important question. If AI is rapidly becoming as foundational to our infrastructure as electricity and water, what does a global AI blackout look like?
Ooh, wow.
We have physical backup generators for when the power grid goes down, but how do we build resilience when our cognitive infrastructure goes offline?
Wow, a cognitive blackout. If the systems that do our thinking, our coding, and our optimizing suddenly just stop, do we still remember how to run the railroad manually?
It's a real question.
That is a fascinating, slightly
Yeah.
terrifying thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this helped clear through the noise and give you a better, sharper view of the big picture. Until next time, Keep learning, stay curious, and we'll catch you on the next one.